What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down one of the most unguardable moves that wide receivers can use when facing press coverage. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you guys would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 14 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Phoenix, Arizona, then Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles, California. So if you guys want some more information on that, you're local to one of those cities, or would like to travel out, we'd absolutely love to have you there. So check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get started with this video. So this move that I want to talk about today against press coverage is going to be something called a kickstep. So some of you might be familiar with the kickstep, some of you might not, but we're going to be breaking down when to use the kickstep, when not to use the kickstep, and why so many people hate on this kickstep. So let's watch this full speed here, this first clip. This wide receiver is doing something called a wide step release. A wide step release is when you take your back foot, you step wide outside the DB's frame. My goal is to get him to jump to the outside so I can take the inside release. So let's play this full speed. He kick steps behind, throws his hip, gets that DB to widen, and gets a ton of separation on that post route. So none of that would have been possible without this kick step, in my opinion. Now, there's another version of this kick step called a prep step, which is where essentially you pick up your front foot and give a little jab, but we're mainly going to focus on the kick step today. By no means do you have to do the kick step. If it's uncomfortable, I recommend that prep step. So with this kick step, like I said, you are literally just kicking behind your front foot. It's a small, subtle movement, but it is to generate power and it is to generate explosion. You are essentially loading up your hips in press coverage so you can throw your hip to move this DB out wide. Now, why is it important? Why do I use that terminology, throw your hip? Because that is where a DB's eyes are going to be. When a DB is playing you in press coverage, he's not going to be looking at your head and shoulders. He's not going to be looking at your feet. He is going to be watching your hips because he thinks that the hips will not lie to him. The hips will tell him exactly where we are going to go. So when I'm doing a move, so many wide receivers get so caught up in moving their head and shoulders. They'll step behind the line of scrimmage. They do like these dips of their shoulders. That's not going to do anything against a disciplined guy. Getting a disciplined guy to move in press, we actually have to step outside of his frame. I actually have to make it look like I am running to the outside, something called a speed release, right? I just come off the ball and I'm just doing the speed release to the outside right now, especially on this wide step release, right? Now, if you don't know what I mean by a speed release, look at this next example here from Ocho Cinco. He comes off the ball, he's against Darrelle Revis. Watch what he does off the ball. He just explodes to the outside. That is kind of the release that we were trying to sell. But you see when he explodes to the outside, see where his body is. You see where he's stepping. See where his hips and shoulders are. When you're going up against a press coverage DB, you have to try to get to this position because that is what forces this DB to make a decision. He has to open up and run because nobody in press, no DB in any situation wants to give up a fade ball. So that's what we got to make it look like. So now that speed release that we just looked at, that would not be considered a speed release if it didn't have what? Speed, if it didn't have explosion, if it didn't have some burst off the line. And that is what that kick step does. So that kick step allows you to load your hip back. So when you step outside of his frame, you're not stepping too far. Because now when I say you want to step outside of a DB's frame to get him to move, a lot of guys will do that, but their body and their hips will stay over here. It'll stay right where they started off the line. Now, when your body and your hips stay in the middle and you reach way outside your frame, yeah, you might be stepping outside the DB's frame. Maybe we get him to bite, but you got no balance. You got no explosion because you're way outside of your frame. You're off balance. So that kick step allows you to bring the hip with the foot. It's attached. Your hip is attached to your foot because now I can step, now I can sell, but also now I have some balance. So that's part of the reason why you want to use a kick step, but also it's faster. So many wide receivers come off the line and they're just flat out slow, especially if you're not the fastest guy in the world. You need something to try to threaten this DB. So guys will come from a flat-footed position and just try to give a little jab to the outside or just a jab to the inside. That's not going to work against a very athletic and disciplined DB because I'm assuming all of you that are watching this video would like to play, if you're not in this situation, if you're a player watching this video, you would like to play football at a higher level one day, right? Whether it's college ball, whether it's anything other than that, maybe it's like semi-pro ball, whatever it is. You probably have dreams and aspirations to play at the next level. So that's why they call it the next level because everybody levels up. Everybody's better. Everybody's more talented, more disciplined. They're faster. They're stronger. So these little details make a huge difference. So this kick step, fellas, is a great way to generate power and explosion off the line. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why would I ever want to split my feet like this? Why do I want to do that? Now, I'm telling you this right now. Watch any NFL wide receiver on Sunday. Watch any NFL wide receiver when they go up against press. Chances are some of them will either do this kick step. Maybe it's not as exaggerated as this, and we're going to show some more examples as we get further along in this video, or they will do some kind of prep step with their front foot. It's not a false step. It is a part of the release. A lot of old school coaches, if you go to your practice and you do this, will hate on it. They'll say, why are you doing that? It's a false step. It's not a false step. It's a part of the release. You need to make sure, and again, I get it if a coach is super anti, like, you can't do that or else you're cut, you're whatever, you're going to get benched, then don't do it, obviously. But I'm saying if you have the freedom to do this, this is a great way to really generate some explosion off the ball. It's for speed, it's for power, it's for all of those things that are going to help you sell the route more and help you get off the ball faster. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job at this wide receiver showcasing that kick step, making it look like that speed release that we just saw in this example here from Ocho Cinco against Darrelle Revis running this route. Okay, so now, let's look at this example here from Sammy Watkins. So does the kick step only work on that wide step release? No, I personally honestly like a kick step, and I probably do this on every single release that I take now, whether I'm demonstrating it for a guy, whether I'm just running routes on my own. I do every single route or release off of a kick step. Obviously, if this DB is 10 yards off in zone, we don't need to kick step. There's no point. That is when it becomes a false step, and we never want to have that bad habit. But when it's press, it is a part of the release to generate balance, explosion, and power. So let's watch what Sammy Watkins does right here. He does kind of a triple step release. He does a 2 quicks, heavy third step, as I call it. I call it a triple step. I'm sure some people have different names for it. So let's watch what he does. He comes up ball, kick step, 1, 2, 3. And widens that DB, takes the inside release on a fade, and is able to win. And it's more so like he kind of did this kick step and took 2 quick steps, saw that Sherman jumped outside, and then put the brakes on the third step. But to have that quickness off the ball, to be able to bring his hips with his feet on this thing, he needed to do something. So that's why he did that kick step. So he comes here. Again, it's a subtle step, but it's to just load his hips. It makes it easier for his hips to shoot off the ball with his feet. No matter where you cut, whether you're running a post route or whether you're doing a move off the line, your hip wants to be attached to your foot. Like there is a string from hip all the way down to your foot, and it is attached. That is what will give you more balance, explosion, and speed with your cuts. And that's what makes this move unguardable, fellas. This kick step is a great way to always get space. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, can I only do a kick step if I'm trying to fake outside and then go back to the inside? Absolutely not. That's not the only time you can use it. Because let's say Sherman stayed inside leverage, right? Like he's kind of like head up press right now, but like let's say, for example, he jumped to the inside. Could you kick step, give a step with the outside foot, and then push off of that and give a jab with the inside foot, like a 1-2, kind of like a crossover? Absolutely. That crossover can hold the DB inside, and to hold the DB inside, we need some speed off the ball. So the kick step can build into those different moves, fellas. It's not just for inside release routes. You can use it off of any release. Let's say, for example, let's use another example. Let's say we got inside shade press, and I got to run a slant route. So we know that we want to attack the outside shoulder and the outside hip of the DB. My goal is to get him to flip his hips to the fade so I could slip under him, right? So could I use a kick step? Absolutely. You could kick step there to generate explosion from your hips. Take first step, second step, third step on a diamond, get him to jump. That kick step gave me some speed, which helps me sell the fade, obviously, and that's what can get that DB out of there. Fellas, you can use this kick step on any given release. That's why I feel it's one of the best things to have in your tool belt, one of the best things to practice, and it might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but you're really going to feel a difference with explosion when you do this. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Watkins doing that triple step release and taking that inside release on a fade. Okay, so this next example, I just want to showcase another example of this kick step to a wide step. So, number one, when we have this coverage, you see how this wide receiver has his stance switched. Still can use the kick step, still can use the wide step. This is just something that offenses will use this stance switch to throw off either the DB's kind of like rhythm, and it's for timing. Usually like guys will do this if they're running like a 2-step slant. Like this isn't a slant route, but if you're running like a 2-step slant, obviously you need your stance to be switched. It's just for timing purposes. That's why people do it. But a lot of times they'll do it to throw off the DB and to use a release like a wide step, right? So what does he do? Let's play this thing full speed. He kick steps and then he throws his hip way to the inside. Same mechanics that we were just talking about. Now it's just the opposite way. He does it on an outside breaking route because he switched his stance. So what does he do to generate that explosion? You see how far he is able to step. He kicks behind because he knows that that loads up his hips, and that allows him to throw his hip. That allows his hip to actually go with the step. Imagine if he stepped to here. I'm going to circle this, right? That's where he stepped, but let's go back to the very beginning. Imagine if he stepped there without the kick step and just stepped. There would be no explosion. There would be no threat of an inside release. There would be nothing. You have to step outside that DB's platform with speed and have to have balance to be able to get out of it. And that kick step helps you accomplish all of that. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver getting that DB to move off that platform and then winning on that 10-yard out. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to train with us in 14 different states this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to. Check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our camps. Camps are not like those big showcase 300-kid camps. Like, we limit spots. That's why we've sold out our first 2 camps that we were doing, because we limit spots. So all of these will sell out. I'm confident in that, so hopefully we can see you guys out there. Really appreciate the support. Very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.